At this exact moment, while you sit here watching this, a quiet phenomenon is taking place inside your vehicle. You cannot hear it, you cannot feel it, and you certainly cannot see it. It began the second you finished filling your tires with air. And with every passing day, the situation degrades a little further. We are not talking about a broken mechanical part. We are not talking about a flashing dashboard error. In fact, even a trained technician will not spot it unless you explicitly ask them to look. It operates completely under the radar, yet federal statistics reveal it is currently impacting the vast majority of cars driving on highways across the country right now. The aspect that should truly infuriate you? Fixing it takes exactly $8. It requires a single, inexpensive item and just 3 minutes of your time every month. Yet virtually no one bothers. Why is that the case? That is the core focus of today's discussion. Before diving into the science of the problem, I want you to recall your last actual tire pressure check. I do not mean reacting to a glowing dashboard icon. I do not mean kicking the rubber to see if it sags visually. I mean the last time you physically attached a pressure reader to every single valve stem, checked the reading, and confirmed it perfectly matched the manufacturer's specification. If we are being completely truthful, the vast majority of drivers draw a blank. A massive chunk of people have literally never performed this task. We cannot write this off as simple laziness. It is the product of an automotive culture that never emphasized its importance, never broke down the reasoning, and never quantified the financial penalty you are paying every day. When this video wraps up, you are going to understand the exact financial toll. You will comprehend the physical forces at play, and you will be armed with the exact steps to eliminate the problem permanently. But first we have to ask, how did motorists in Japan crack this code decades ahead of the rest of the world? And how did this crucial piece of maintenance remain hidden in plain view without ever becoming standard practice for the average driver? That is exactly where our timeline begins. The year is 1973. Japan stands as one of the most heavily oil-reliant countries on the globe, bringing in nearly all of its petroleum from overseas. Suddenly, the global oil shock strikes. Fuel costs skyrocket in a matter of hours. The availability of gasoline becomes wildly unpredictable. The Japanese government is forced to make a decision in a scenario where most nations simply react defensively. Japan takes a completely different route. Rather than setting up strict rations and praying for the economic turmoil to end, the nation initiates a rigorous, systematic campaign to slash fuel usage across the board. We are not just talking about heavy industry or public transit. We are talking about everyday motorists, regular people commuting in regular vehicles. In this massive push, the Japan Automobile Tire Manufacturers Association, or JATMA, steps up as a primary architect of the initiative. They step up because they have the numbers. Their research proved that a massive chunk of the cars navigating Japanese streets were wasting fuel at an alarming rate. The culprit was not inefficient motors. It was not poor aerodynamic design. It was entirely due to the physical conditions inside their wheels. And the exact same process degrading fuel economy inside your tires right now is identical to what was happening across Japan in 1973. There are no sudden explosions or catastrophic failures. It is just the laws of physics silently robbing you day after day. Let me break down the actual mechanism, because once you grasp how this works, you will never look at a wheel the same way again. A tire is far more than a simple donut of rubber bolted to your car. It is a highly engineered, pressurized pocket of air. That trapped air is what is truly supporting the heavy mass of your vehicle. The rubber is merely the envelope holding it all in. When that internal pressure is dialed in perfectly, the tire maintains its exact intended geometry. The footprint, the specific section of rubber physically gripping the pavement, matches precisely what the designers intended for peak efficiency. But the moment that internal pressure drops, the tire begins to warp under the vehicle's mass. The outer walls sag outward. That footprint on the pavement spreads out. You now have more rubber dragging against more asphalt. And a larger surface area dragging on the road creates a very specific problem: increased friction. Your motor is suddenly forced to expend more energy to push through that drag every single time those wheels turn over. In engineering terms, this is known as rolling resistance. And the Department of Energy clearly outlines this as a massive factor in how much fuel your car actually burns in the real world. Now, let us look at the exact figure that will permanently shift your perspective. For every individual PSI your tires fall short of the factory spec, you are sacrificing 0.2% of your gas mileage. That penalty applies per PSI across all four wheels every single mile you commute. So the logical question popping into your head right now should be, Exactly how underinflated are your wheels today? Here is the hidden reality of vehicle maintenance that goes completely ignored. Tires deflate naturally. We are not talking about hitting a nail or scraping a curb. We are talking about microscopic physics. Air molecules are tiny enough to actually slip through solid rubber over an extended period. In completely standard driving scenarios, a perfectly fine tire will bleed out between 1 and 2 psi every single month just by sitting there. There is no blowout. There is no sudden flat. It is just the inevitable escape of microscopic gas, a phenomenon completely verified by extensive NHTSA research. That translates to a reality where a flawlessly filled tire on New Year's Day is already down 2 to 4 psi by the time spring rolls around, purely through natural seepage. Yet the vast majority of people never bother to measure it. They just sit around and wait for their dashboard to beep at them. But let us look at what NHTSA records actually dictate regarding that little glowing icon. The digital tire monitoring setup inside your vehicle is only mandated by law to trigger a warning once the pressure plummets a full 25% below the factory target. That is not an early preventive system. That is an absolute last resort. If your car's ideal spec is 34 psi, that dashboard icon remains totally dark until you hit rock bottom at roughly 25 psi. You are essentially piloting a vehicle with actively failing efficiency, burning extra cash at the pump month after month, and your car's computer is programmed to keep its mouth shut until the problem is critical. That massive gray area between optimal inflation and dangerously low pressure remains entirely hidden from you. Based on federal tracking, over a quarter of standard sedans cruising American highways right now have at least one tire sitting 8 psi below where it should be. If you look at heavier vehicles like SUVs and pickup trucks, that number jumps to nearly 1 in 3. We are not talking about a fringe group of negligent people. We are looking at a nationwide statistical fact born from a driving population that was never equipped with the proper habits or the basic tools. So, how did those Japanese logistics fleets handle this differently? And what exact $8 move can you make tomorrow morning to resolve this for good? I will give you that exact blueprint shortly. But before we get there, we need to quantify the actual financial damage this is causing you, because we have the specific math and the numbers add up quickly. Let us look at an average commuter driving 15,000 miles a year, getting roughly 28 miles to the gallon. With gas prices sitting right around $3.30 a gallon, that individual is burning through about 1,765s at the pump annually. Now factor in a pressure drop of just 4 psi across the board, a deficit that federal data proves is completely normal and frequently undetected, at a 0.2% efficiency penalty per psi, being down 4 psi strips away 0.8% of your gas mileage. On a $1,165 yearly gas budget, you are bleeding about $14. It might not sound like a massive leak, however, that is the absolute best case scenario. Motorists operating 8 psi below spec, which the statistics show is incredibly common, are throwing away 1.6% of their efficiency, bringing that yearly loss to $28. And this penalty stacks on top of every other driving variable. Every time you idle in traffic, climb a steep grade, or haul heavy cargo. Low tire pressure might not create those obstacles, but it absolutely amplifies the cost of every single one of them. But the bleeding does not stop at the gas pump. Federal regulators have proven that tires maintained at the proper pressure survive 4,700 miles longer than those running soft. If you just dropped $600 on a fresh set of rubber, squeezing out those extra miles translates to another $80 to $100 in retained value over their lifespan. When you combine the retained fuel efficiency with the prolonged tire life, you're looking at a hard, verifiable savings of anywhere from $50 to $200 every single year, strictly based on how low your tires are right now. And what are you leveraging to get that money back? An $8 gadget. The Department of Energy clearly states that simply keeping your tires properly aired up can shave up to 11 cents off every gallon of gas you buy. If you consume 535 gallons a year, that is $59 back in your pocket, mathematically proven, all from an $8 upfront cost. Let me be clear, this is not some clever marketing angle. This is strictly federal government math, clearly published by the DOE, and you can verify it yourself on fueleconomy.gov right this second. So why is a quality pressure reader missing from almost every glove box? Why is this protocol not beaten into our heads in the owner's manual at the service center or the moment you buy a vehicle? That is the exact dilemma Japan was trying to solve back in 1973. And the solution they developed is the exact reason commercial transport fleets in Japan began significantly outliving their Western competition. When JATMA established strict tire pressure guidelines in the 1970s, it was not a polite suggestion. The shift was entirely institutional. Commercial fleet operators were not simply told to monitor their wheels, they were strictly mandated to log the numbers. Performing a pressure check every 30 days became a hard requirement in their maintenance records. This was not born out of bureaucratic red tape. It happened because the efficiency metrics were impossible to argue with. A motor pool operating with perfectly filled tires traveled demonstrably further on a single liter of gas compared to an identical fleet running on assumptions and guesswork. This strict routine yielded verifiable financial retention that directly lowered the bottom line. Eventually, this institutional habit bled over into the personal lives of everyday commuters, fueled by the intense energy awareness sparked by the global oil shortage. For a driver in Japan, checking tire pressure is not some neglected checkbox on a windshield lube sticker. It is a strict, every 30-day procedure, executed with a dedicated instrument logged and remedied long before it snowballs into a genuine issue. The gap between that systematic approach and the casual mindset of your average American driver has nothing to do with intelligence. It comes down to owning one simple gadget and setting a recurring alert on your phone, two things that will cost you significantly less than the gasoline you will save in the very first month. So, here is your exact battle plan. Step 1. Secure a digital tire pressure gauge. Do not rely on that battered metal pop-out stick sitting next to the gas station air pump. Those provide rough estimates and are nearly impossible to decipher at night. You want a digital reader that features a brightly lit screen and delivers a reading precise down to a single decimal point. If you pull up Amazon, simply type in digital tire pressure gauge. The Astro AI digital model runs about $8 and boasts thousands of reviews confirming its ruggedness and precision. The Jocko Flow Pro is another phenomenal choice sitting in the $12 to $15 range. Either device will get the job done. It is a single purchase and you are set. Step 2. Locate the precise pressure target for your specific car. Do not look at the rubber sidewall. The figure stamped into the rubber represents the absolute maximum capacity that tire can physically handle, not the ideal running pressure for your vehicle's weight. The actual number you need is printed on a placard inside the driver's side door frame. Swing your door open and check the inner metal pillar. It will clearly list the optimal front and rear PSI targets. Type those numbers directly into your phone. Step 3. Always measure your tires when they are completely cold. In automotive terms, cold means the vehicle has been parked for a minimum of 3 hours or driven for less than a single mile. As rubber rolls down the asphalt, friction generates heat, expanding the air inside and temporarily inflating your pressure reading. Measuring a hot tire will feed you a completely fabricated number. Tackling this in the early morning prior to your commute is the absolute best practice. Step 4. Twist off the tiny valve cap on every wheel. Push your digital reader securely onto the metal stem. Hold it steady for roughly 2 seconds and record the output. Repeat this process for all 4 corners. Write down every single result. Step 5. Hook up an air compressor to add pressure or bleed off air to reduce it until you nail that door jamb specification perfectly. Take a second reading to confirm the adjustment. Step 6. Lock this routine in for the first day of every single month. It takes 3 minutes of physical effort and 1 recurring digital calendar alert. You have just adopted the entire Japanese commercial protocol, scaled down for your personal driveway. The return on investment for this specific habit is not some theoretical concept. It is hard, undeniable math. You are trading $8 for the reader, 60 seconds to program a recurring notification, and 3 minutes of manual labor. In exchange, you are securing a proven annual retention of $59 in gasoline at conservative estimates, scaling all the way up to $200 when you factor in the extended lifespan of your rubber. Within the first 12 months, that little plastic tool pays for itself more than 7 times over. Every single year after that, it is pure, unadulterated savings. There is not a financial product, savings strategy, or investment account on the planet that can guarantee you a massive 636% yield on an $8 input. The reason this remains a mystery to most is simply that it demands building a habit, and habits require immediate visual triggers. Your trigger is keeping that gauge directly inside your glove compartment, front and center, staring back at you every time you pop the latch. Do not toss it in a toolbox inside your house. Keep it inside the vehicle, exactly where the check actually happens. Now, every single detail we just covered, the step-by-step measurement guide, the exact Amazon search terms for the recommended devices, the calendar setup, the Department of Energy's exact cost per PSI breakdown based on modern gas prices, and the original Japanese fleet maintenance checklist has been compiled into one single master reference file. It is called the Japanese Vault. You will find the link to access it right down in the video description. It is a simple PDF document. Download it, print out a hard copy, and shove it in your glove box right beside your new gauge. This video breaks down the philosophy. That document permanently hands you the tactics and the execution, so you never have to scrub through this footage again. Click the link in the description right now. Looking ahead to next week's video, we are diving into a $3 chemical compound that Japanese transport fleets have been mixing into their engine oil since the 1960s. Independent published tribology research proves it drops internal engine wear by an astonishing 19 to 40%. You have never heard a Western mechanic suggest it because the formula cannot be legally patented, meaning there is zero profit margin in selling it to you. That breakdown goes live next week. Hit the subscribe button so you do not miss it. And send this video to one person in your life who drives. Do not share it just because it is a fascinating story. Share it because they are actively bleeding money right now, and they are completely oblivious. Finally, jump into the comments below and tell me your current average miles per gallon, along with the country you are driving in. I am actively compiling a real-world database of exactly how much capital-correct tire pressure is saving across varying global markets, different vehicle classes, and fluctuating fuel prices. That information is incredibly valuable, and your comment directly contributes to building that map.